Continuing with the first chapter on the topic of systematic prayer and the father-son relationship, in this video I want to give a little bit more of a context to what really are we speaking about in these passages. It has been a lot of information, and some of this might not be clear for the most part, since apparently we are dealing with higher cosmological concepts, opposite to what most people believe things are. Everybody simplifies these things, and they think that the father is actually a bearded man, like a giant in the clouds with a white bird sitting in a stone throne with a goat with 8 eyes or something like that. This is what people commonly believe. But no, we're speaking about different things here, and it's all in the scriptures. If we look closely at what we are speaking about, we can figure out some things. Jesus started doing things that startled people, that got people's attention, and people started asking him and questioning him. What are you doing? What is your authority? Tell us what's going on here. And he would explain to them, he would try to tell them, okay, so you go into prayer, you do this, you do that. What do you do first? If you were to ask Jesus right now, Jesus, how do I pray? How do I do what you do? He would say, go into the kingdom first. This kingdom of heaven, which he said is within you and all around. He said it's not up in the air with the birds, it's not in the sea with the fish, because they will precede you. They said the kingdom is within you. So that's one thing. This kingdom of the Father, of heaven, of God, which is interchangeable along the scriptures, is within you. Not just Jesus, every human being according to the belief. Clearly, this kingdom, quote unquote kingdom, is a part of every human being. When we speak about the quote-unquote miracles, what they call them, quote-unquote works, he says the same thing. He says, I attribute everything I do to the quote-unquote Father. I act to the Father, I do what the Father tells me to, it's all because of the Father. So people asked him, naturally, what is this Father? Just show us the Father, and that will be enough for us. And then Jesus went on to say what I analyzed in the previous video. The Father is living in me. Don't you believe me? The Father, I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. And then he goes on to say, or at least believe in the works. Believe in the miracles, believe in these things that you cannot conceive, believe in these things that you keep asking me about, believe in these things that are defying the authority of the physical world and of the current belief systems, current religions, which he was against. He was against the traditional outlooks on the ultimate reality. We must emphasize on these quote-unquote works, because a lot of people are still thinking in terms of allegories and parables and stories, and it's amazing how people come up with these ideas that perhaps he was speaking about the tribes of Israel, perhaps he was speaking about this or that, or they try to find hidden meanings in the things because they do not understand. It does not conform their outlook on reality of breaking the norm. But this is exactly what Jesus is speaking about here in the scriptures. He's speaking about control over the material world, over physical reality, over things that we are not supposed to do. All these things that happen according to the scriptures, the healings, the walking on water, the things that were not supposed to happen, the transfiguration, these are paranormal events. This is not it was not about the doctrine, it was not about the teachings, it was not about the parables. Of course, that's all good and nice and everything you want, but at the core of it, Jesus was such a figure because he defied the natural laws of physical reality. And this is what he is saying. Okay, don't believe me, believe in what I am doing, believe in the works, believe in my ability to bend the rules of the physical world. This is why we are still speaking about Jesus. If he had been another philosopher, well, good for him. Okay, next one. But no, the claims are just too big and too mind-shattering, and this is why we are still speaking about him. So when we speak about these quote-unquote works, we have to think about the implications. Number one is that the natural laws of the physical reality can be broken. This is one thing that has been all throughout the history of man. You call it magic, call it paranormal, call it, even the Buddhists and the Hindu ascetics would claim of levitation and so on. There are many things, even today, in our common narratives of these quote-unquote superheroes and stuff like that. We humans have this idea that they can become demigods, that they can overcome their own humanity and become something else. This is why Jesus is such an important figure, even in a pure narrative or fantasy ideal context. This is indeed the implications of the narrative. A lot of people follow Christianity because of fear. They are afraid of hell, they are afraid of punishment, but a lot of people also see to these things as a hope for something else. And the implication is clear in the scriptures. He said all throughout, whoever believes, nothing is impossible for the one who believes, and the Son of Man will do what I do, and even greater things. He said this all throughout his ministry. He was not speaking about him being the Son of God and wanting worship and punishing people. There's this clear idea that Christians have, which is totally unfounded. There's nowhere in the actual sayings of him. Perhaps there are certain things in some of the other books of the Bible, but the ones attributed straight to the sayings of Jesus never mention anything about that. But they do mention that the Son of Man will do the same things as he does, and even greater things, provided that they quote-unquote believe. In a previous video, I mentioned the event of the fig tree. According to this event, Jesus saw a fig tree and he wanted fruit from the fig tree, but the fig tree was not in season. So when he saw that the fig tree didn't have fruit for him, he cursed the tree and he said to the tree, "May no one ever eat fruit from you." They went on and did their things in the temple, and there's a whole story about Jesus overturning the tables and so on. They came back and they saw the tree. They realized that the tree had withered. And Peter said to Jesus, "Look, Rabbi, the tree that you cursed has withered." Now, a lot of people believe that this is some sort of an allegory, but as I just said, he spoke about the works, he spoke about bending the rules of reality. I mean, there's no way to prove this, but there is the theory, and when we look at the theory, this is the question of questions, and we can see this in lesser forms in different instances that I will be approaching as I continue with this outline. But just referring to this one, this is not an allegory. This is something that people were amazed about, and they decided to include it in the scriptures. And then Jesus went on to explain this, and he said, "I tell you the truth. You can say to this mountain, 'May you be lifted up and thrown into the sea,' and it will happen. But you must really believe it will happen, and have no doubt in your heart. I tell you, you can pray for anything, and if you believe that you've received it, it will be yours." Mark 11:22-24. Now there are some interesting words in this passage, and phrases like "you must really believe it will happen," "have no doubt," "you can pray for anything." It does not say you can pray for whatever you are worth. It does not say you can pray for whatever the Lord wants to give you depending on your behavior. It does not say anything about that. Jesus never said anything like that. And please show me proof of a scripture attached directly to Jesus where he says these things. He never said anything about that, but he is saying anything, you may pray for anything, you must really believe it, you must have no doubt, you must see this true, you must go inside, within the kingdom, and if you truly believe it, it will happen. What they say will happen. He is speaking about mentalism. He is explaining the principles of mentalism, which are in other philosophies, and which is beginning to be present again in some of the newer scientific theories related to quantum physics and how consciousness affects the world around us. Now, as I've been saying throughout all this work, we must really wonder and ask ourselves, what does belief, quote unquote belief, means really? Does it mean the dogmatic narrative where Jesus and God are here to punish us or to give us something based on our behavior and have this master-servant relationship that is nowhere found in the actual teachings of Jesus? Or belief that perhaps we can move a mountain, that perhaps we can wither the tree, that perhaps we can walk on water? Now, of course, this would require a high amount of belief, and if our fantasy narratives tell us something, perhaps some sort of initiation, perhaps it's a gradual process. In any case, this is outside our common understanding of reality and what is possible in the current rule set of our physical world. But what about belief that a man can overcome a quote-unquote incurable disease? This has happened, and this happens often, commonly when belief becomes a last resource, and it can be the difference between life and death. If you're on the path of finding the truth about reality and our purpose as humans on Earth, the information that I have to share concerns you. After a lifetime of research in philosophies ranging from Buddhism to the occult, I've encountered themes and patterns along some baffling information that is beginning to be seriously studied by science. A Rational Divine Outline, The Ghost of Jesus, is the first iteration of this project, where I analyze the message of Jesus without dogmatism, fanaticism, or religious bias. You can find my work available on Amazon on the link below. If you find this work valuable, consider subscribing, sharing, and following me on social media, as it will help others in the same path to find this information. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.